start of the Islamic Republic. It was Israel that went and pleaded with Ronald Reagan to provide parts for the F-4 Phantom jets that were the parts of the Stars Air Force that were now in control of Iran. It was only after Iraq was finally out of the picture as posing a nuclear threat, following the U.S. invasion in 1991, that Israel started making this hard turn for against Iran, because it's here about Iran to go.
Why should Russia be negotiating with
Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea. That's not part of Russia. That's not coming back. You need to acknowledge that. Ukraine's not going to acknowledge that. Military victory by Russia. And, Russia wants to maintain good relations with the United States. Candidly, what's the United States done? It's just, it's like what we saw, what happened last week in Iran. It happened to talk to Iran. Oh, we talk. And then immediately, hit the Iranians with more sanctions. And the rest of the 25% sanctions on any country, China, enough is enough, and we have to go full bore now. We not hold back. And they may be moving in that direction, I believe.
Here's our friend, Foreign Minister Lavrov, earlier today. Which is the punishment of Russia, the imposition of sanctions against Russia, including the freezing of our gold and foreign currency reserves. This is explicitly stated as being due to Russia's hostile behavior in foreign policy. And as examples, interference in United States elections is cited, the very thing President Trump categorically opposes on a daily basis, and rejects all of which, the violations of international law and human rights. There's no end to this. This is all for your bidenism, which Trump and his team reject outright, but nevertheless they come against it. And all the sanctions against Russia continue to be effective.
Pure Bidenism, which Trump and his team outright reject, but they've extended it.
Yeah, no, administration can do immediately as a gesture to Russia to show that we are serious about finding a peaceful diplomatic solution. But we're not. That's the point. It's a game. All they have to do is, okay, that's an open side speech. Let's have direct flights down between the United States and Russia. You guys both know getting to Russia these days requested. Painful trip. You got to travel about 30 hours through a very expensive. They could return the property that was seized by Barack Obama in December of 2012 or 2016 from the Russian diplomatic, both the embassy and the office. But they haven't done that. So there are a number of things that Trump could do for using the aggressor. Haven't done that. Next time they want to come, this is what we expect from you. You're going to lift these sanctions. You're going to do some positive gestures. Otherwise, we got nothing to talk about.
Larry, thank you very much, my dear. Very, very helpful. We look forward to seeing you with Ray shortly on Friday.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, Ray to govern at 1 this afternoon. Ray and Larry's former colleague, John Kyriakou at 2 this afternoon in London on the part of the British government, Ian Proud, and at 3 this afternoon, our new guest, Ben Freeman, from the Clinton Institute. Why does more military spending lead the war against Russia? Dr. Hoffman, the President.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the new price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and actually win in your game. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, Inc. Coverage max limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Undeclared wars are commonplace. Tragically, our government engages in preemptive war, otherwise known as aggression, with no complaints from the American people. Sadly, we have become accustomed to living with the illegitimate use of force of government. To develop a truly free society, we need to be able to and resist. Because sometimes to love your country, you have to alter or abolish it. What if that government is best which governs least? What if it is dangerous to be right in the government? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
Changing Freedom. Today is Monday, February 9, 2026. Ray McGovern will be with us in just a moment on what is Trump's Russia strategy. But first this. Don't you just cringe when people say, I told you so, sorry, I told you gold is benefits due to excessive money printing, inflation, and global uncertainty. It's here. It's gold and silver reached all-time highs. You call your capital and buy some. It's not too late. Experts are predicting higher prices ahead. Why? Mounting exchange, geopolitical chaos, cost of living crises, and driving central banks to even Morgan Stanley ditched the 60-40 rule for 60-20-20, putting 20% into precious metals. They're getting educated, and you should too. This and the people like you. We're get the reports. Get gold and silver. $20,000 gold and silver. Call 800-511-3620 or go to learchasing.com. Rick McGovern, welcome to you, my good friend. As always, a pleasure. On the schedule. Before we get to Russia, what do you expect his boss will show him when the boss arrives? There's no praise. The White House on Wednesday, is urgency to this meeting between them.
Well, yes, clearly for the last question. That's why Netanyahu insisted on moving the visit up 1 full week. The boss will have to take the boss anymore. I predict that Trump is not going to give Bibi or Netanyahu what he wants. Trump has decided that he's got to kind of step back from this conflict with Iran. He's been advised in a more measured way by his military. He's been warned by the Russians and the Chinese. He doesn't want to get involved in a bloodbath this next midterm. So it will be nice to look if it goes ahead with those crazy plans that he initiated when the CIA told us, can we do what we did back in 1955 in overthrowing the regime in Iran? Just give us the money and give us the time. Well, it didn't work. A lot of things have changed in 70 plus years, and now he's up the kazoo without a paddle, okay? So we've got a situation here where Trump has to face the reality. The Russian professor that advised Brennan, Richard Kennedy, for example, who advised Putin on occasion, said that, look, he gets these great ideas. He says, all right, we're going to do this. And then he kind of leaves the details to like people like the military and like the intelligence people. Okay, you work it out. Well, this time, they can't work it out. I predict that Trump will be sensible this time, that he's not going to let Netanyahu not let him stay in Blair House, certainly not let Congress, because Netanyahu is not a popular person in the United States anymore. For the first time ever, the sentiment against Israel, not only his involvement in training our ice into that. The real deal, of course, is the nuclear weapon issue. And I just remind people, because it's really important, Trump, in that clip we showed before, obfuscates. He kind of, what's the word? He puts together two separate issues, the enrichment issue and working on a nuclear bomb. We know they do enrichment. We know they have highly enriched, very refined enrichment, but they don't. Here's the latest on the nuclear bomb, okay? 1 year ago, not quite, in March, the official estimate by the intelligence community, I'll read you the words.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. As a business owner, you take a lot of roles. Marketer, bookkeeper, CEO. But when it comes to small business insurance, Progressive has you covered. They offer discounts on commercial auto insurance. Customizable coverages that can grow with your business. Progressive annually war insurance. Well, you do everything else. For today is your weakness. Progressive Energy Insurance Company that is provided in service by affiliated and or insurance. Discounts on coverage selected for similar or case war situations.
Said, look, this attack on Iran by our American friends is not going to derail our talks. It's a secondary issue. We place priority on developing good relations with the United States. It's not going to affect that at all. That was back in June. Is that the case now? Forget about it. This is going to affect a whole bunch of things, namely, most importantly, the U.S. refusal to extend the nuclear weapons for just 1 year. That went down really bad in Moscow and in Russia. And today we have Lavrov in a very acerbic speech. Granted, he's talking to the BRICS people, but he's very, 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 very strong in saying, look, the U.S. Betrayed us on that, betrayed us on this, and he doesn't say the customary words like, whoa, if they betray us on Iran or these other issues, we'll still negotiate. That's over. So all bets are off with respect to the primary aim of Putin, which has been since Trump came in 11 months ago, to create a better, decent relationship with the U.S. They've given up on that. That is not to say that they're giving up with working with the U.S. to create a sensible arrangement after Ukraine is conquered by the Russian forces. And I'd like to talk about that if we have time. Maybe
in just a minute, I want to talk about it as well. But back to the Israelis and Iran. Do you think that the Israelis actually fear that the United States might enter into some negotiated agreement over nuclear weapons with Iran?
Yes, Trump said all those talks in Oman, that they were just very, very, very good. Now, you can believe Trump or not, but there's always a chance he might be telling the truth. And that, in my view, is why Netanyahu says, I'd like to come this week, not next week. Okay? Now, you have to concede that in the next breath, Trump said, and we're going to put some more sanctions on Iran, and we're going to sanction or put more tariffs on people who trade with even more still. So the guy is mercurial. So whether he wants to get involved in a regional war, he knows, number one, that the Iranians have made it quite clear that they will retaliate for anything full scale. Number two, he has the empirical evidence from June of this past year that the Iranians have the wherewithal to obliterate Israel. Now, I don't know what Netanyahu thinks about that, but if he thinks that, well, if they try to do that, the U.S. will come in with full speed, I think he's wrong with that. I mean, Trump might have the wherewithal to tell, look, maybe, I know you got all kinds of stuff on me, all this political leverage, and you got Epstein now, but they have Epstein now anyway. They don't have that leverage anymore.
What did you say this time? Before we discuss Trump's Russian strategy, I may have shown this to you, and if I have, I apologize for showing it again, but I think it's very significant to come up with a justification for attacking Iran. Of course, the NBC.
Should the supreme leader of Iran be worried right now? I would say he should be very worried, yeah. He should be. As you know, they're negotiating with us. I know they are, but the protesters have said, we have their back. We still have their back, and look, that mess right now because of us. We went in and we wiped out their nuclear. If we didn't take out that nuclear, we wouldn't have peace in the Middle East because the Arab countries could have never done that. They were very, very afraid of Iran. They're not afraid of Iran anymore. Those beautiful B-2 bombers went in and they hit their target every single bomb and obliterated it. And within 1 month, they're going to have a nuclear weapon. That was a big threat. They're not going to have it anymore. But what's the deal about? I mean, if they're doing, are they trying to restart the nuclear? Well, I heard that they are, and if they do, and I let them know, if they do, we're going to send them right back and do their job.
So you're saying they tried to restart it, and that's why you're threatening force?
They tried to go back to the site. They weren't even able to get near it. There was total obliteration. But they were thinking about starting a new site in a different part of the country. We found out about it. I said, you do that, we're going to do bad things to you.
Somehow it doesn't make much sense, right? Well, he's conflating enrichment, where we have a new site, that would be for enrichment. He's conflating that with working on a nuclear weapon. Right. The more interesting thing, of course, is that we're saying, we did what we did in Iran already. We kind of disarmed them in a way when we went in there, and so everybody's not afraid of Iran anymore. Well, they are afraid of Iran, which is the fact that many of the arguments since talked into these people. So the obfuscation, the inflation of enrichment and a nuclear weapon, which since 2003, I think that's 23 years ago, the Iranians, according to U.S. national estimates, unanimously stated with high confidence, okay, they haven't been working on a nuclear weapon. Okay, now that makes sense because the Iranians are quite willing, as they did in the JCPOA, to move a lot of their highly enriched uranium off to Russia or to somewhere else. That was done pretty much in the JCPOA from research. Okay, they could do that, and they're willing to do that, and that's I think the key because the American people are so fully informed about all these things and this inflation aspect that they can be persuaded. Oh, look what Trump did. He got the Iranians to remove a lot of their enriched uranium to XYZ, Turkey, Russia, wherever. And I think you can step down somewhat gracefully then, rather than get into a war which will have no near end, or which we will run out of ammunition, and a couple of months before the midterms, will have a very bad look, as they say these days.
Again, before I ask you about Trump's Russian strategy, if he has one, here's Foreign Minister Lavrov earlier today being very direct with Rick Sanchez of Russia Today. Press number 5.
Our concern is simple. Our concern is this. As long as our native country lives, we have no other way. Another important issue to consider is that this specific goal, as long as our native country lives in our current time and age, is a very, very ambitious. Vastly and reliably. Threatening to instigate a full-scale war against which the collective West has deliberately manufactured out of the territory of Ukraine, and with which it has once again unleashed a devastating and aggressive war against our people. And the Nazi foundations must be eliminated, and we will ensure of this, I have no doubt, not only our security interests, by preventing the deployment of any kind of weapons threatening us on Ukrainian territory, but also, secondly, by providing reliable of the rights of people, Russians and Russian speakers, who have lived and continue to live for centuries on the lands of Crimea, Donbass, and Novorossiya.
So what is Trump's Russia strategy?
Well, this could be very brief. He doesn't have one. He's up against it now. But, he tried to ease away from the whole thing by saying, look, this is Europe's problem, right? It's not my problem. Biden got us into this. I just want people to stop getting killed. And, those border areas that Russia has not conquered yet, they're going to conquer them. I mean, it's just a matter of time. So let's get a good deal, or we can still get a good deal. Now, Trump said that 3 months ago, for God's sake. What's different now? Well, there are all kinds of things. There's the refusal to continue to start. There's the assassination attempt on Ali Syria. Now, when Lavrov talks about Nazis, I hadn't heard this name before, but Denis Prokopyenko is head of the Azov, I was going to say brigade, but now it's a division or a corps. That's the ultimate Nazi. I think there's 20,000 people in that brigade or division in Ukraine now. And what he said just yesterday was, oh, good thing. Good try to get Alexei here. He'll never, if he returns, they'll never believe that he's going to speak anymore. Because everyone's trying to think they were entitled to do him, and we'll do him again. So, talk about Nazis. These are the guys that wear the skull and bones and the rest of the Nazi paraphernalia. And actually, just 6 or 7 years ago, the good guys, and now that's what Lavrov is saying. Just to finish up on this thought. Why? Why does Dmitry have come to Florida to talk not only to Witkoff and Kushner, but to our Secretary of the Treasury? Well, the answer is simple. simple. The Russians want more than a simple military victory in Ukraine. Your government say, look, this is the on the battlefield. I agree. And I disagree with others who say that's it, because that's only happened. The other day was well simply said by Medvedev, the former head of Russia, president of Russia. He said, look, this was just a week ago. We're going to prevail militarily in Ukraine, quote, but it is equally important to think about what happens next. After all, the goal of victory is to prevent new conflicts. This is absolutely obvious. What's he talking about? He's talking about the need to keep the U.S. involved, because that's the only way you can get Europe to create a new security architecture, which will assure that the goal of victory is to prevent new conflicts. In other words, yeah, Russia's going to win. The battlefield will decide things, but the Russians want a lot more than that, and only the U.S. can use its influence to create that. Economic influence, whatever influence, but they're working hard to do this. So it's not a sideshow. It's a part of the Ukrainian conflict as Russia sees it. Battlefield victory, creating a situation where this doesn't happen again. Step 2, and they can't do that without the United States.
Raymond Gerbert, thank you very much, my dear friend. Great conversation. As always, look forward to seeing you on Friday with Larry Johnson. All the best. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Coming up later today at 1 o'clock, John Kiriakou. At 2 o'clock, Ian Proud. At 3 o'clock, Ben Freeman. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.
Finding a hoodie that lasts through the season can be tough. The American Giant Classic Full Zip hoodie is made to last a lifetime, so you can count on it to bring you comfort and warmth year after year. The iconic Classic Full Zip hoodie is a jacket that's skirted at all for American Giant. Custom heavyweight fleece and side panels for mobility make it the best hoodie ever. And a double-lined hood and reinforced elbow patches means this hoodie will last. Born from a commitment to support the communities that created products, every American Giant piece is made in America and designed to last. No exceptions. The result is durable clothing, like the premium Flood Crew tee, no BS high-rise pants, and slim roughneck pants that become part of your life. Snag the hoodie that will bring you comfort for life, the American Giant Classic Full Zip. And save 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's American-Giant.com, code STAPLE20.
Undeclared wars are common sense. Tragically, our government engages in preemptive war, otherwise known as aggression, with no complaints from the American people. Sadly, we have become accustomed to living with the illegitimate use of force by government. To develop a truly free society, the issue of initiating force must be understood and rejected.
What if sometimes to love your country, you have to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Monday, February 9th, 2026. My longtime friend and former CIA officer, John Kiriakou, joins us now. John, always a pleasure. I was just listening to our intro, and some of it in the voice of Ron Paul, some of it in my own. And I mean this with the greatest of respect and even affection. I guess you are living proof that it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong.
Sorry to say that's been the case. I was just talking to a friend of mine a few minutes ago, and she asked me if I had applied for a presidential pardon, and as you know, as you helped me, I have. And I said, it just pains me that the process is so difficult because the issue seems so clear in my mind. Either there's a right or there's a wrong. And
Right.
I think that history has vindicated me, and still just kind of waiting for my day.
Right. I think your day will come. And my dear friend, and I was privileged to play a small role in that. Obviously, I hope it is
It's
successful.
more than small. Thank you.
Thank you. When U.S. intelligence officers take an oath of fidelity to the Constitution, it includes things like due process and search and seizure without a warrant. Do they take this oath seriously? Do they take it literally?
That's really the question right there. I was one of the 700 people on my first day at the CIA, all sitting in the CIA's auditorium called the Bubble. And when I put my right hand in the air and I swore to uphold the Constitution and to protect it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I hate that I've had to come to the conclusion that they but we should all be standing in support of the Constitution. We should all want to protect the Constitution and to uphold the Constitution, rather than whatever policy happens to be in vogue or whatever political party happens to control the White House.
Of course, I took this oath. I took that oath when I joined the military, and then I took that oath when I was appointed to the bench. But being a judge, you, of course, have a lot of leeway. You are supposed to interpret the Constitution as it was originally understood, but there are a variety of means for interpreting it. But when you are a CIA officer, I I mean, do they tell you the president will authorize you to break the law? Don't worry about it?
Yes, they do. And in fact, on the day that I was asked if I wanted to be, their words, trained in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques, the first words out of my mouth were, that sounds like a torture program, and torture is illegal. And my colleague from the Counterterrorism Center immediately responded with, it's not illegal, the president approved it, and the Justice Department authorized it. And I said, I don't know what laws say. This seems pretty obviously illegal to me. I'm sorry to say, the only one of 14 people who said no at the end of the day.
Do presidents regularly authorize, maybe regularly is the wrong word, I'll let you put whatever adverb in there that you think is appropriate, criminal behavior, kidnapping, drug dealing, murder by U.S. intelligence agents?
I hate to say, but yes. In the most egregious example, we have what has become known as the Tuesday morning kill list meeting, where during the Obama administration, John Brennan convened a group of operations officers and attorneys from the White House, the CIA, and the Justice Department to come up with a list of people every Tuesday morning, people who would be killed that week. Once the names were agreed upon, the teams would fan out around the world, carry out their assassinations, and then meet up again the following Tuesday for that week's list. That's just murders. Then you have to consider renditions, or extraordinary renditions, which are different. A rendition is, if you are, let's say, Tunisian, and I capture you in Afghanistan, and I send you back to Tunisia, that's a rendition. If you're Tunisian, and I catch you in Afghanistan, and I send you to Tunisia, and I tell the Tunisian government, but I know in Egypt you're going to be softened up a little bit. That's an extraordinary rendition. That is just simply not legal. And then when it comes to drugs, it's taken us decades to finally get the real story as to what happened with the Contra rebels and the arrival of cocaine in the United States that ended up leading to the crack epidemic. Yeah, these all came out of White House actions. And again, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter what political party controls the White House. This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue where the executive has overstepped, and neither Congress nor the courts have pushed back.
Do agents ever worry that they might be prosecuted by a subsequent administration? Suppose Gavin Newsom succeeds Donald Trump. Might a Newsom Justice Department prosecute those who caused the chaos in Iran, located in the kitchen of Nicolas Maduro?
Oh, certainly. And that's why the CIA always insists on a finding or on an interpretation of the law by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel before they'll allow such an operation to go forward. That's come out of the 1980s, actually, or the 1990s. I had a friend at the agency, Bob Baer, who's made a name for himself as a commentator. He was serving in Iraq, northern Iraq in the 1990s, and he was working with the Kurds to see if he might be able to take out Saddam Hussein, which he believed to be his mission. This is what he had been told to do. Well, one of the communications was intercepted by NSA, and it was advisor Sandy Berger that there was a rogue CIA officer who was looking to kill Saddam Hussein. The NSC, under Berger, ordered the CIA to bring Bob home, and they threatened to charge him with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the murder of Saddam Hussein. He ended up having to leave the agency. But in fact, Bob didn't do anything wrong. Bob did exactly as he had been told to do. And the operation just fell apart because the White House was looking for a phone.
Do agents, groups of agents, management and agents go rogue, or do they always have the knowledge and comfort of a presidential authorization or DOJ authorization? And before you answer, I got to tell you what the courts have said about DOJ legal opinions. They're not worth the paper that they're often not even printed on. It's not a defense in a courtroom that some lawyer in the Justice Department told you could do it. Don't agents know that?
No, they don't. That's such an important point. I say all the time, Judge, that we have the 1946 Federal Torture Act, which bans torture. We have the United Nations Convention Against Torture, which bans torture, and which we wrote.
Right.
But then, we waterboard people, we put them in freezing cells, and they end up dying of hypothermia. We put them in enclosed spaces like coffins and play Russian roulette with them and hold power drills to their heads, all in violation of international law. And we just pretend that it's okay. And I'll add another thing. I say this all the time, but I feel very strongly about it. In 1946, we executed Japanese soldiers who had waterboarded American POWs. We executed them. That was a death penalty crime. In 1968, in January, the Washington Post ran a front-page photograph of an American soldier waterboarding a North Vietnamese prisoner. That soldier was prosecuted, and he was convicted and sentenced to 20 years at Fort Leavenworth. The law never changed. But by 2002, we just decided, the law doesn't apply to us. We're the good guys. OLC says we can do this. We're going to go do it.
OLC is the Office of Legal Counsel in the DOJ that purports to give legal advice to other aspects of the executive branch of the government. These are the people that the courts have said their words are not a defense if you're a prosecutor, and apparently we know that that's not the case. When the chaos was caused in the streets in Iran, and when we know from an ex-posting by former CIA director and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that Mossad and CIA agents were there, what kind of things, what kind of behavior did the CIA do on the ground in order to foment that chaos which resulted in innocent people being murdered in the streets.
Yes, it did. Well, we know, thanks to Mike Pompeo's flapping gums, that this was a Mossad CIA operation. It was always my experience that the CIA just simply didn't have people on the ground, but the Mossad certainly did, and a lot of people on the ground. But we now know also that both the CIA and the Mossad have cooperated very, very closely with the MEK, the Mujahideen Khalq. The Mujahideen Khalq started off as something akin to a cult. It was founded by a married couple, the Rajavis. The husband mysteriously disappeared in the 1970s. The rumor was that his wife had him killed and just buried in the desert somewhere. Miriam Rajavi took over the organization. This is an organization that tried to assassinate the U.S. ambassador in Iran in the 1970s. They tried to assassinate an American lieutenant general who was the highest-ranking military official in Iran, U.S. military official. And they were given safe haven by Saddam Hussein in northeastern Iraq. Well, in 2009, when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, we decided to take the MEK off the terrorism watch list. And immediately the likes of everybody from Rudy Giuliani to Howard Dean, prominent people on the left and the right in everyday American politics, they all started taking MEK money. And they started lobbying for the MEK. So all of a sudden now, Miriam Rajavi, who was a murderous lunatic just prior to this, was now feted in Washington at these gigantic dinners, spent millions of dollars hiring more and more American political figures to lobby for the MEK. And then we have the Mossad bragging that they have an operational relationship with the MEK. One of the things that surprised me with these demonstrations, I believe at the outset that these were Mossad-inspired demonstrations. The Mossad actually came out, or the Israeli government came out and said, yes, it was us, aren't we clever, look how successful we were. But what sort of tipped me off was that these protesters were burning mosques, for example. They burned 18 mosques, and then they set fire to 38 fire trucks. Well, if you're demonstrating for democracy and freedom and, that kind of thing, why in the world did you set mosques and fire engines on fire? That didn't make any sense to me. Well, now it makes sense, because the Mossad and the CIA want chaos in Iran, chaos to try to bring down this government. And listen, chaos has never resulted in anything better, at least in the near term. If there is chaos, a whole lot of people are going to die.
When President Trump said he didn't know anything about the origins of the chaos in the streets, and he assumed that there were spontaneous demonstrations by shopkeepers and consumers because the value of the dollar fell, his Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, shockingly went on national television and said, yeah, we made the dollar, we made the real, we made the real fall. We caused that to happen. We know how to create economic chaos, and we did it to create the problems in the streets. Would that type of economic chaos in the banking system in Iran, and would that type of chaos, which included murder and arson, as you just described, John, in the streets, could that have happened without presidential approval?
No. That would be what is called a covert action program. And so that has to have very specific presidential approval. It has to have the president's signature after having gone through the CIA General Counsel, the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department, the National Security Council, General Counsel, and then the National Security Advisor before it even gets to the president. So it has to be a very well thought out plan that the president finally approves with his signature before it can be implemented. But I'll add that the Israelis oftentimes just can't control themselves. They can't help themselves. They jump the gun frequently before the U.S. is ready to act alongside them. And they'll just go in and start doing something. One of the things that the Israelis have been very, very successful in vis-a-vis Iran is that they recruited hundreds, perhaps thousands of Afghan refugees. There are 2 million Afghan refugees in Iran. And as refugees, they're entitled to no government services at all. No food, no water, no medical care, no housing, no nothing. So they're destitute. Well, if the Israelis go in and say, hey, we'll give you $200 a month if you just stand on this street corner for 12 hours a day and look at that apartment and tell me when the general comes out of his apartment onto his balcony so that they can adjust their missile GPSs to take out the general's apartment. They end up succeeding in that way. In the U.S., we have a far heavier bureaucracy. It takes longer for these plans to work their way through the process. If the Israelis want to do something, they just do it.
Wow.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. As a business owner, you take a lot of roles. Marketer, bookkeeper, CEO. But when it comes to small business insurance, Progressive has you covered. They offer discounts on commercial auto insurance, custom medical coverages that can grow with your business, and reliable protection for whatever comes your way. Count on Progressive to handle your insurance, while you do, well, everything else. Quote today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Well, the holidays have come and gone like this, but you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift. Well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer with half-off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. Call it in 3 just for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular pricing customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, $180 for 12 months. Well, under 50 gigabytes per month.
I'm going to play a clip for you. It's Vice President Vance being interviewed by my friend and former colleague, Megyn Kelly, in which he's giving the administration line as to why Iran's nuclear enrichment needs to be destroyed by violence. And then the second part of the clip is about 12 years old. I think you know the person being interviewed by my friend and former colleague at Fox, David Asman, about whether or not the Saudi government has nuclear weapons. The reason I raise this is because of their familiarity with the person in the Asman clip, and because of the misleading nature of what Vice President is saying. Chris, can you play that, please?
What happens when the same people who are shooting up a mall or driving airplanes into buildings have a nuclear weapon? That is unacceptable. And it's not just them, because if the Iranians get a nuclear weapon, you know who gets a nuclear weapon the next day? The Saudi Arabians.
People, Mr. Claridge, have talked about Saudi Arabia. They certainly have more money than anybody in the Middle East. Are you concerned about the possibility they may get a nuclear bomb?
Saudis already have the bomb. But people fail to remember.
Hold on a second, Mr. Claridge. Let me just emphasize that point. That's an important point. You say Saudi Arabia already has a nuclear bomb?
No, several. People forget that it was the Saudis who financed the Pakistan bomb. They put billions of dollars into that effort to create that nuclear capability. And in return, of course, they get something. Now people can argue whether it was gives on 4 nuclear devices or 7. That's the argument. But no one is really in the know argues that they do have access to nuclear weapons.
First of all, do you know if the Saudis have nuclear weapons? And secondly, did you know, because he's no longer living, Mr. Claridge, and is he worthy of belief?
Jimmy Claridge is a legendary figure in a giant. John was prosecuted actually for his involvement in the Iran-Contra affair. One of the first things I learned when I joined the CIA in January of 1990 was that the Saudis had long been seeking a nuclear bomb. I also know that the Saudis are more generous with Pakistan than with any other country on the planet, to the point where the city of Faisalabad, a city of some 7 or 8 million people in East Central Pakistan, was named after Saudi King Faisal because of his generosity. The Saudis gave the Pakistanis as much money as they needed to develop a nuclear bomb as a counter to the Indians, and I always assumed, as Dewey Claridge did, that the Pakistanis shared those nuclear bombs with the Saudis. I believe that was the quid pro quo. The question then is, do they have a delivery system? Do they have a missile capable of carrying a nuclear device? I think the answer is probably no, but impossible to say. Listen, the bottom line for me is, whether you like Dewey Claridge or not, whether you like Dewey Claridge's politics or not, he was a serious operator at the CIA, and if he says that the Saudis have a nuclear bomb, I would believe that the Saudis have a nuclear bomb.
Was he ever instrumental in the importation, in his official capacity at the CIA, of cocaine into the United States?
I believe that he was. I've researched the daylights out of this. There were 2 different Contra groups, one in the north of Nicaragua and one in the south. We were working with the Contras in the north. The Contras in the south were taking in Colombian cocaine, and the CIA involvement, at the very least, was to allow the cocaine through the north of Nicaragua unmolested, knowing that cocaine was making its way to the United States. And in response to that, we would get no pushback from the southern Contras to the arming of the northern Contras, and indeed the southern Contras would continue to fight against the Sandinistas. So I believe it's been pretty well documented that the CIA, at the very least, allowed cocaine to come into the country, and at the worst, facilitated cocaine.
So, from time to time, we have a people on the show who say the opposite about this. Sheriff David Hathaway, who's the sheriff of a county in Arizona that spent 30 years with the Drug Enforcement Administration, including positions, agrees with you entirely. Jack Devine, whom you may know or know of, everybody smiles when I mention Jack's name, and who has become a friend of mine, they're neighbors in New York City, insists that that's not true, that the CIA was not involved in cocaine. Who's right and who's wrong?
I think the sheriff is right. I think Jack Devine is wrong. I had the good fortune to work with Jack Devine briefly in 2001 or 2002. Great guy, great officer, true believer in the CIA, and the belief that the CIA is the good guy. God bless him. I think he's either woefully wrong or just pretending that he, like Sergeant Schultz used to say on Hope Heroes, he knows nothing. But I think the evidence is out there that the CIA was facilitating information.
Is the CIA dangerous to American freedom?
Oh, I believe that it's antithetical to American freedom. Only because we've allowed it to be. There was this wonderful period from roughly 1975-76 until about 1982, where congressional oversight of CIA was real, and it was hands-on. We're talking about the Church Committee becoming the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and the Senate Committee becoming the House Select Committee on Intelligence, and they really were hands-on overseers, as we needed. 1982, with the war in Nicaragua, the gloves came off. Next thing you know, we're arming them with the help of the Iranians and Saudi middlemen, cocaine coming into the country, and things just went off the rails. One of the things that I learned at the CIA during my career there is that they will push until somebody pushes back. And if nobody pushes back, well, they just claim new territory, and they're not doing that. And that's what we've seen over the years, where the committees now are really little more than cheerleaders for the CIA, rather than being overseers and controllers of the CIA. It's going to take another Church and Pike Committee, period, to rein the CIA CIA in. And technology is so advanced now, I'm not even sure that that's possible.
Well, is this regulatory capture, where the regulated entity is controlling its own regulator, as often happens in the banking industry?
I think so. And for many, many years now, all anybody at the CIA ever had to say was 9/11, and everybody would just drop whatever it is they were talking about. So national security, 9/11.
Is the CIA involved in the Epstein case?
A couple of weeks ago, I would have said.
Sorry.
Jonathan?
Nothing.
How do you feel? Are you gonna stay?
Right now? Like, not go back? I could leave.
Feel like it?
Hmm?
You feel like though?
I'm gonna have breakfast later.
Come on.
By that one on Bruno, the little taco place.
Oh, the
The one you wanted to try?
Mexico taco?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's already over, no?
Oh, I thought it was all day.
At breakfast?
I think it says 11. Maybe.
You see this?
See what? What am I looking at?
No, I didn't do it. I'll take the card.
What did you do? You just blew it up?
Trying to clear a path so I can bring more on.
I don't know. Is it you? But I don't want to be with you right now. Mm-hmm.
Like in the bed. Probably looking right. And then I'm
Let me see.
Well, I woke up out of nowhere and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do.
Oh,
I was gonna lay on the couch, but then it was just so fucking crazy. I came over here to turn off the light in the backyard, and I just saw how windy it was. I've been meaning to put the cover on the barbecue. That's what I was doing now. It's gonna get wet. I started looking around everywhere for my fucking shoes, and I was looking. Charlie was like jumping at me, thinking I'm gonna take him outside. I'm trying to get my sandals and I put the cover on out there, and I felt away from it.
You scared?
Scared of what?
The weather?
It was pretty bad. Right.
Why would the camera call me that?
That's crazy. Just in.
When I see it, I was like, what the fuck could that be? So I try to look and it's
You wearing a jacket?
yeah.
That's another thing.
So yeah, I mean, this is really important stuff. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein was already dead when Mandelson was made ambassador to Washington. But his friendship with him goes back years, leading to a time when Mandelson was, a British cabinet minister. He was also twice at that time as well. So this is.
I was watching that. It was like fucking everything. It was just going crazy. Fucking super windy.
Was the trash already picked up?
When we left, yeah. I don't know how bad it was, but there's still trash there. But I have to just scoot it to the side. That's right. Record how fucking crazy it was.
All the stuff was good at that really.
It wasn't as bad as what it was.